Salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Podcast The Storm, the socially awkward outcast, crazy real how I met convene talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the nerdy cultist, aka the authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Good evening, everyone. And for those that were here last week, you know that technical difficulties were both technical and difficult. So we basically are calling this week a do-over with bonus material because yet more trailers came out and did trailer things. So the next couple weeks will be very trailer heavy. And then we'll be in December, and then it will be Christmas themed again.
And I'm your host last time. I want to be the brainstorm pop culture. And yeah, Dawn said, yeah, we're just going to be playing catch up with what we missed last week. Hopefully, I'm not hearing an echo, but if there is one, please let us know. Although I don't think I could be able, I'm not really able to do anything about that.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be one, but if there gets to be one, I will just mute whenever I'm not talking, and that should hopefully cut down on things.
Also, hello, Giant Turtle. And saying I lied, the stream hadn't started yet. And yeah, I'm doing good. That's how we're doing.
Yeah, I'm okay, Dragon Turtle. Still working on the Christmas list, hoping to have it done by Thanksgiving, so that gives plenty of time for things to be like shipped and what have you, and then I can focus on buying for other people, which does generally include Brainstormer. Although the budget is somewhat scrapped this year because normally I try to have like $200 to $300 saved up, but the Ren Fair sort of ate into that, so now I have $100. Um, but that's still 25 for each person. So I will think of something. Mhm. Anyway, now I assume we're waiting for the trailer to load.
Yeah, I was just setting everything up. All right. Let me get screen here. So the first thing is something I thought Dawn would be interested in talking about is the official trailer for Madam Web of the Sony Spider Verse thing. But not to be confused with like the Spider Verse movies.
Yeah, because Sony for whatever reason keeps insisting that these throwback to the early 2000s style quasi superhero movies starring like C or D tier list Spider-Man villains without any connection to Spider-Man will work, even though Morbius is a a meme unto itself, and it doesn't look like Craven is going to be much better. But here's the thing with Madam Web, and I'm speaking mostly for myself, but I think in no small part, a large part of my generation probably feels somewhat similar. I like Madam Web, but the version I like of Madam Web is not the version that mostly happens in the comics. In the comics, she's a sort of pseudo Spider-Man-ish vigilante, similar to the relationship between like Oracle and Batman or the Bat Family, um, or someone along those lines. However, I know personally for myself and for a large part of my generation, we grew up with the Madam Web that was part of Spider-Man the animated series in the 90s and early 2000s. And in that version, Madam Web is a cosmic entity who is actually the understudy to the Beyonder, and she serves a function that is 1/3 fortune teller, 1/3 mentor, and 1/3 like fairy godmother to Spider-Man, and like shapes his destiny to make him ready to face larger things. And it ultimately leads to the Marvel animated universe of the 90s crossing over, and then there's things with the Beyonder, and then of course Doom does what Doom does and takes the Beyonder's powers for a bit until everybody works together to convince him that he shouldn't have them. But I digress. The point is, the version of Madam Web that I like is the semi-mystical, semi-cosmic, um, other world or other dimensional entity who styles herself kind of after a stereotypical fortune teller slash like fairy godmother type, and that's not the version of Madam Web that we're getting. That movie would actually be interesting. Madam Web is this like cosmic entity relating to Spider-Man, um, which I often wonder why they don't have Madam Web in the comics take that kind of role like she had in the animated series, especially because there are semi-cosmic, semi-mystical relations to Spider-Man. Like there are spider demons and spider gods that often oversee the Spider Verse mythos,
Also,
and I
don't
don't.
forget, I was going to mention, don't forget the spider totems.
Yeah, and the like multiversal spider totem type thing. So I don't understand why they don't just have a character calling herself Madam Web take that kind of role. You could even maybe tie it into the goddess Arachne, um,
Also, the
or
weirdest
like the
thing,
or like the Weaver goddess in ancient mythology that's supposed to like be responsible for weaving fate and shite. But no,
yeah,
they for some reason they went with the street level off-brand vigilante version, and they're not even seemingly doing that all that well. So
uh,
this entire thing seems very confused and like they don't know what their fans want, or alternatively, they could just not care, which
I mean, the
also might
guy,
explain why the Sony movies tend to so often be stuck in the superhero movie landscape of 20 or 30 years ago instead of, trying to be contemporaneous in any way.
so I do have like, a couple things to say before we get into it. Um, One, I mean, I mostly agree with everything you said. Um, but also with Madam Web trailer that I was watching this, that's why I sent it. Um, I really, as I was watching it, and we'll get more into it, but this is the most apparent one of whoever the fuck is running the show at Sony, probably Avi or Avi,
Av-
not sure how.
Aviarad, yeah, or
Yeah,
Aviarad. I don't know how to say it, but
I've heard,
it's
I've heard it said both ways, so that's why I
yeah.
didn't.
But
I,
yeah, Aviarad and Amy Pascal are stuck in the superhero movie landscape of like 30 years ago, and I don't know why.
But they they're just it's apparent here, especially in this trailer. What I was trying to get, and like with Morbius too, even more so, I think,
Hmm.
is that they're one, they don't understand the material clearly, and second, they are honestly they don't even know how to make a fucking movie or story. Full honesty,
Yeah,
because
lest anyone think that No Way Home was good because of anything Sony brought to the table. And I did see some people making that argument because we're not allowed to like the MCU as a Phase 4. Um, yeah, no. Sony needs someone who knows what they're doing to hold their hand. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies weren't good because of Sony. They were good because of Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire and the other actors like Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe. But
uh,
yeah,
J.J. Simmons.
if if anything good comes out of the Sony Spider Verse, it is in spite of rather than because of them. I think stuff like this and Morbius and Craven definitely make that case. Because
Um, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but there,
yeah,
like honestly, this is somewhat where I disagree with you on the whole like it doesn't work without Spider-Man because these ideas can work
they
without.
could, yes, they could, but they're not, is what I'm saying.
Right, I agree with that. I agree with that. I'm just saying like the real issue is I guess the quality issue that really gets brought up all the time that we bring
Yeah,
up all.
someone who knew enough about the source material or knew enough to know they should familiarize themselves with the source material, and who was a good enough writer slash creative could find a way to make these characters work as their own characters and not need to bring in the Spectre of Spider-Man. However, coupled with Sony's apparent perpetual belief that the superhero movies being made today are the exact same as they were 20 or 30 years ago, um, it's simply not doing. And why I say that is because back in the day, around the time of the Bryan Singer X-Men movies, and to a lesser extent the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, largely thanks to the geeky credentials of Sam Raimi, is why they're better. But point being, back in the day, there was this belief that in order to make comic book movies good, you had to leave out anything that was comic book-ish or felt comic booky about them, which ultimately led to movies that should have been comic book superhero movies being turned into generic sci-fi action movies. And more often than not, there were exceptions, like the Guillermo del Toro Hellboys, which were amazeballs, or um, the V for Vendetta one starring Hugo Weaving and Natalie Portman, because that is one of the comic book movie genre's biggest classics by far, or even something like Zack Snyder's Watchmen. But my point is that for the longest time there was this belief that you had to fix um, comic book superhero media by uncomic booking it and making it as grounded and street level and generic action science fiction movie as possible. And these sorts of movies, the movies like Morbius and Craven and Madam Web, are apparent. They seem to be still stuck in the era from 30 years ago where the thing to make a comic book movie work is uncomic booking it as much as possible. And I hate it. I hate it so much. It was there in Venom as well. It did feel like a bit of a throwback to like 2003 or so, but it was at least more the enjoyable parts of those sorts of movies rather than the annoying parts. Whereas something like Morbius or what it looks like Kraven is going to be, or this, is everything I hated about the. In order to adapt comic book movies, we have to make them good by fixing them. Derp it derp.
Don't mean to cut you off, obviously, but
Yeah, but moving forward.
Yeah, let me mute real quick. I don't really think I have this banana.
Yeah, just banana. There's
Okay.
no like spider-centric fruit as far as I'm aware.
Hey, come on. Get your stuff. Let's go.
Even the cinematography looks like something that should have come out 30 years ago, or like 20 years ago at the latest, or the most recent.
I will give this credit. Compared to Morbius, this is more colorful. That's about it.
Yeah, it has a basic color palette down better. But that just kind of serves to make it look generic, kind of like a generic like ABC show, something like Pretty Little Liars or 13 Reasons Why or something like that. Which I just now realized that my apparent knowledge of very cringy very cringy teenage girl shows might be somewhat telling. But I have a gay card, so neener neener. I have an excuse.
I will still make fun of you for watching those shows.
I don't watch them. I'm just aware of them because, like, it's just kind of an osmosis thing. Like the most I know about 13 Reasons Why is that it ended badly.
Yeah,
And the most I know about Pretty Little Liars is it was trying really, really hard to be this generation's Dawson's Creek, and it failed.
Besides that, I don't really. Besides like the color thing, I don't really have anything else to say so far.
No, it's too early in the trailer to make any comments. Banana.
Give me one sec.
Let's try that again. A week ago, I spent my life racing against time.
I'm gonna help you out today, okay?
Trying to save people who were running out of it.
Daddy!
Until one moment.
Why does this feel so targeted at teenage girls? Like, it feels really, like, it feels like a really generic, like, YA science fiction sort of movie. Like one of the Hunger Games ripoffs.
You know what? Ironically, what was it? What is it? The new spin-off prequel thing. What's it called?
The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Yeah, that actually, from what I remember watching of that, like the trailers and stuff for that actually got me intrigued and somewhat engaged.
It was more interesting than what's going on here. This almost gives me like early Final Destination vibes, but without the campy fun aspect of it.
Oh, of the later ones, the first one was actually rather horrifying.
Yeah.
To be fair, that was actually from what I remember of the behind the scenes thing. That was actually a script for an X-Files episode.
Yeah. Now, mind you, I really enjoy the Final Destination series. That's why I specified without the fun part, because there is a campy fun aspect to the Final Destination um movies that makes them fun to watch in that kind of way that the Saw movies are also sometimes kind of fun to watch.
All right. But yeah, this all feels. It's weird. I'm not. Huh. I don't really know how to put into words how kind of disinterested I am.
Yeah, no, this movie is an interest vacuum. The only thing that takes me from being like straight down the middle ambivalently apathetic to kind of pissed off is one, I know enough about the history of the comic book movie genre to know they are like going by the like 1990s slash early 2000s era playbook of how to not do a superhero movie. And that, like I said, I actually really love Cosmic Entity version of Madam Web. So the fact that we're getting a Madam Web movie and it has nothing to do with the Madam Web that I and like I would say a good 70% of millennials who would know who Madam Web is, grew up with. So that's what takes me out from being not interested at all, like straight down the middle apathetic, to actually kind of pissed off. One, it's reviving things about early 2000s or late 90s comic book movies that I hate, and two, it's also not even a very good version of that. But also two, you could have made a movie based on the Cosmic Entity version of Madam Web, and you chose the annoying street level vigilante and not even a good version of that instead. So that's why I'm able to be mad rather than just meh. But anyway, banana.
Give me a second.
Changed everything.
Come on! Welcome back to the land of the living.
I don't understand what's happening. I've been having visions.
You see what I mean about the Final Destination thing? It's Final Destination with none of the soul or the camp that made Final Destination interesting, memorable, or fun. And I hate it.
Again, Charlie, they could do this whole bait and switch and do both. Like the street level vigilante and the cosmic beyonder. Yeah, what is it again? Understudy.
Hmm.
I was actually gonna mention that earlier. Um, to me, it somewhat seems like they're trying to combine both, but they're doing it. I think they're doing it in such a disjointed way that it doesn't.
Well, and here's the thing, and here's why doing a bait and switch would make no sense whatsoever. As I said, of those of us millennials or late Gen Xers who know who Madam Web is and care who Madam Web is, we know and care who Madam Web is because she was this really cool, really mystical, mysterious cosmic entity lady who it turned out was an understudy of the Beyonders, and who was a guide and mentor to Spider-Man. So why would you make a Madam Web movie and make it seem like you're doing the street level vigilante version only to bait and switch? Because I guarantee you that if you made a Madam Web movie that was actually about the Madam Web that those of us who grew up on the Spider-Man animated series grew up with, that movie, it might not do exceedingly well. It might be a bit of a niche product, but it would at least be interesting and memorable enough to have a cult following. Something like Alita Battle Angel or even Black Adam. And for something like Sony has in mind for these movies, that would be probably enough to at least make some kind of profit off the concept. But instead, if they are doing the bait and switch that you're suggesting, Dragon Turtle, then they're being the single stupidest person ever, because they're pitching it as street level vigilante version, which means that whoever does show up for the street level vigilante version is going to be pissed off when they throw the cosmic stuff in. And the people who are expecting the cosmic entity aren't going to show up in the first place because the movie is being pitched as a street level incarnation instead. So that at this point, Sony doesn't have the marketing leverage to play with the audience like this. Either bank on the animated Spider-Man animated series nostalgia and give us the weird mystical cosmic entity, or frankly just don't make the movie, because Madam Web was never even that large of a character in the comics either. As the street level vigilante version, it's one of the reasons why I think they should just bite the bullet and turn her into the cosmic entity from the animated series in the comics too. Especially because they keep trying to tie the Spider-Verse to some kind of spider-themed cosmic entity, and it's already sitting there, so why not?
Okay. Okay. Dentro was just proposing it as an alternative way to do this, and saying that's what's going on.
No, that's fair, but I still think you can afford to do this kind of bait and switch when you already have the audience loyalty. And the thing is, the most recent attempt by the Sony apparatus to work without Marvel or Sam Raimi holding their hand was Morbius. And before that, they stole the Vulture from the MCU timeline. So they really don't have the leverage to be playing with their audience like this. I mean, you could effectively have the street level version turn into the Cosmic Entity version. That could work, but you'd have to actually display it in the trailers that was what was going on, that she was on a path from turning from a normal human into this being with cosmic awareness, and then maybe have the Beyonder act as her mentor figure. But that would also require a man being a mentor figure to a female character in a modern movie, and that's not going to happen. Not if the average middle manager in any given corporation or journalist has anything to say about it.
Right. Moving on. I still stand firmly against the whole, well, fuck the original canon, I want to do this. And it's worth mentioning that the Avengers and stuff weren't originally that popular. Also, sometimes something seems super arbitrary about that sort of propaganda being linked to Earth Arachnids being superhumans seems really bizarre.
Yeah, no, it is. Like, I don't know why they keep trying to attach Spider-Man to a more mythological canon. I guess it's to make people like me happy. And it does sort of do that, but it's completely superfluous to Spider-Man's actual like mythos. So yeah, I don't know why they keep doing it. I just know that if they insist on wanting to do it, there are better ways to do it, and one of those ways has already been done by the Spider-Man animated series, which an entire generation grew up on and really loves that incarnation of Madam Web. So why in all God's name are they not putting 2 and 2 together and getting 4 instead of putting 2 and 2 together and getting, oh look, our movie bobbed every time?
I think it's to be bigger. They need to keep upping the lore stuff.
Well, it's because Spider-Man is a major character for Marvel and always probably will be. So they're trying to give him some kind of, you were predestined for this sort of, like, they're trying to pull the hero destined to be the hero card by tying him into a larger mystical mythos. And again, if you've decided that that's a thing you need to do, fair enough, but you still need to do it well and sensibly. And neither the comics nor the movies by Sony seem to be able to do that. The best iteration when they tried to do that is a book called Spider-Man Fever. It was a crossover comic with him and Doctor Strange, where Peter basically became possessed by a spider demon, and Doctor Strange had to play exorcist. It was a really good book, which I can't find a fucking trade paperback for, despite that I've looked all over, and it annoys me.
And so Giant Turtle says it's like you need to stop this evil scientist who's destroying the world versus you are the ancient chosen one prophesied in the dark one to save the world. Funny enough, the latter was actually supposed to be Spider-Man's daughter's thing to Mephisto, hence that whole One More Day storyline. I mean, obviously there was executive bullshit that happened with One More Day, but that's why
It's magic. We don't have to explain it. No, you do. Fuck off.
But Mephisto wanted to make that deal with Peter to reset things in his life, but it cost him his daughter, who apparently was destined to defeat Mephisto.
Which sounds like a really epic and interesting character, which it's a shame we'll never get because Joe Quesada decided it's magic, I don't have to explain it. We just want Peter to remain perpetually in adolescence. Basically turn him into a middle-aged incel without ever actually following through on the implications of any of that.
Right.
Damn it.
Anyway, shall we continue? We have about 2 minutes of this.
Yep, banana.
Visions. I knew he was gonna die. I think I'm seeing the future.
New York City is a whole new level of crazy these days.
What do you want from me?
Yep, more generic, like Final Destination without the fun. Trying desperately to appeal to the same like crowd that liked Hunger Games and Twilight back in the day. Even their pandering is 20 years out of date at this point. God damn it. Or 10 years at least out of date. Like they're taking a style from 30 years ago and marketing advice from 10 years ago, and yet trying to pander to modern people. And yet I think they'll be surprised when this movie performs lower than the Marvels. It's not because Madam Web is a non-starter. It's because, one, you picked the wrong one, the one that already had inbuilt nostalgia, and two, you have to actually make people interested in the movie they're watching. And you appear to have done neither. And yet you still, for whatever reason, are probably going to try to shoehorn her into the Sinister Six crossover movie you want to make, which is literally older than the Andrew Garfield version of Spider-Man, which is several iterations of Spider-Man ago, mind you. Which just goes to prove that Sony gets stuck on ideas and doesn't let them go until they've actually failed, because they've been trying to do Sinister Six since the Mark Webb, Andrew Garfield era, and they still haven't let go of the idea yet.
That guy got so. I'm talking Mark Webb and then Garfield, but honestly, everyone in those movies got so fucked over by Sony.
Oh yeah, because Sony tried desperately to build a competing Spider-Verse to Marvel without any knowledge of how to do that, and crammed it all in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Right. So I'm in this weird thing. Like, I remember the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I don't watch them. They're fun. They're fine. But because of my age, by the way, I had a birthday recently on last Thursday, or this Thursday. It would be last Thursday. I am now 24. But you know,
which means I now feel older.
Tell me about it. But I kind of grew up with more so with the Andrew Garfield movies more so. I remember watching those more.
The thing I liked about the first Amazing Spider-Man movie was, unironically, the relationship between Peter and Flash. Like, it's funny that we've gotten 3 iterations of Spider-Man, and yet the Andrew Garfield ones are still the only ones to do Flash Thompson right.
Yeah, he's an asshole.
Or even close to right.
It's weird, like. Yeah, I agree, honestly. Yeah, there was deleted scenes of him in Main Spider-Man 2. They cut at the graduation.
And then they like completely overhauled his character in the MCU version. And I'm like, how hard is it to do a bully with a secret heart of gold? Like, this is an archetype as old as the hills underneath the hills, and yet they still felt the need to reinvent it.
So, yeah, I don't know how. It's weird. Anyway, shall we?
Yeah, but yeah, banana.
New York City is a whole new level of crazy these days.
This is an emergency. Get off the train.
That man's trying to kill you.
What?
Who are you? What is going on? I can see the future. Oh, what the hell? She didn't see that coming? That's not how it works.
I just noticed this in the like end of the subway scene there. The backgrounds look very empty, almost like they couldn't pay extras. Like, I know it's a weird nit to pick, but like, on top of looking just very generic and cheap, and also 30 years old, the movie just looks literally empty. But anyway, banana.
Check. To be fair, I'm gonna be fully honest. This trailer is by a 5 in numbers trailers, but like early 2010s trailers.
Yeah, yeah, again, the marketing is 10 years old. The production style is 30 years old. The need to uncomic book any given comic book property is between 30 and 20 years old, and the cheesy low budget nature is like 20 years old, except without the camp and fun and self-awareness that used to make those kind of movies work. Like, again, comparing this to something that at least partially it's ripping off, Final Destination. For all the cheapness and cheesiness of the Final Destination franchise, it knew what it was enough to enjoy what it was, and thus was very fun and campy, which made them entertaining and compelling, if not necessarily high art. But this movie is doing the same thing without any of the camp, the fun, or the cheese factor. And if you must make a movie like it's 30 years old, can you not at least keep the things about the movies made 30 years ago that I like?
Yeah. All right.
I've seen that man before.
So who is he?
Ezekiel Sims. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
Wait, I recognize you. You live in my building. You're the paramedic.
Yeah, you almost ran me over.
This is literally the same basic plot as Craven, and at least somewhat Morbius as well. Which you would think, after Morbius got Morbin timed, they would have done anything at all to make every movie they make different from Morbius. But nope. Apparently, Sony has been sitting on this Sinister Six concept for 20 years, and it's going to play it exactly like it's still 20 years ago. There's no need to upgrade the scripts. There's no need to upgrade the aesthetics. There's no need to upgrade the production values. We will make a movie as though it is a 30-year-old movie that we for some reason are only releasing today, and we will be surprised when it bombs horribly, as though the genre hasn't moved on or upgraded in any meaningful way since then.
All right.
Banana.
Also, it's weird. I
Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't doubt these actors are good are not. I think they're good, and I've seen like there's some of the younger ones like in other stuff, and they're really good actors, like the young actresses who are supposed to be other Spider people, by the way, which we'll see later on. But
which just why
but the way their dialogue is spoken, I'm not again. It's not this to them. I just don't think one they were given good enough material, and two, I don't think they like to be on this movie. They weren't.
No, it's very similar to Hayden Christensen. I have no doubt that he's a good actor, and he's been a good actor in various other things. But someone directed him to give the most flat and generic performance possible, and he did the best he could within that constraint. And I think that might be the same here, but that doesn't change the fact that they were directed to act as though this is an episode of Pretty Little Liars or Dawson's Creek or Degrassi or some shit. And that's actually kind of an insult to Degrassi, because that's the only one I'm familiar with, and their performances were better than this. Banana. Hey, actually, is there a banana spider? Because I know there are like spiders that do feed on fruit.
Hold on.
If there's a banana spider, we're changing it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's banana spider.
Well, you learn something new every day, or I guess in my case, relearn it, because I had vague recollections of hearing about that before. Anyway, banana
Giant,
spider.
hold on. Giant tail Brazilian wandering spider often travels with bananas. Oh.
Hmm.
Again, you learn something new every day. But yeah, banana spiders, I guess, or banana spiders.
Yep, banana spider.
Why do I feel like that is someone's spider sona out there?
It is totally within, like, I could see someone like act from a Banana Republic, like a third world equivalent of Spider-Man in some alternate universe, calling themselves Banana Spider to kind of distinguish themselves from Spider-Man.
Travels as it ends up shipped to your supermarket. Oh, that's horrifying.
Well, I mean, it is called the Wandering Spider, so it does what it says on the tin, or I
Oh.
guess in this case on the exoskeleton.
Spider Nana. You literally
No.
could have done that. Or Spider Mana.
No.
Okay, that's Giant Turtle's idea. I just want to say that. Yeah.
Banana Spider is plenty enough theming. So
All right.
Banana Spider.
Sorry, Giant Turtle.
Boot to the head, Dragon Turtle. Boot to the head.
You don't think this is weird? How we're all connected?
It's honestly like the least weird thing that's happened all day.
What do you want from me?
I have no idea what those girls are called.
Why don't you want from me?
I think he can see into the future.
What are you want from me?
He's trying to change what happens.
I get the idea. It's supposed to be that, like, her ability to see the future is a variation of the spider sense, just supercharged. I get it, but it's still very much like. So you took the idea of Pretty Little Liars, you threw in a little bit of Final Destination, and you apparently stuck to the same plot template as Morbius and Craven. Why would you do that?
It's also weird that, for one thing, it's Ezekiel Stain, I believe his name is, who was like a major figure within the Spider-Man mythos relatively recently. I think in the 2000s he was created by J. Michael Straczynski. Who was like one of the more earlier versions. Was an older fellow who got spider powers, not by a bite of a spider, but the mystical means, which I guess is where that mystical mythology stuff comes in for Spider-Man. And they're turning him into a villain when he's actually an ally of Spider-Man. I mean, he has
Because there were no other one-off Spider-Man villains you could have pilfered for this, apparently.
It's just weird that they're also giving up. I remember someone mentioning that it looked like Kane, like the '90s, like a mix of Kane Spider-Man costume, not the Scarlet Spider, but like the original look. Which
right? Yeah.
Is
a
figured clone of Spider-Man or Peter Parker.
Yeah. I actually really like Kane as a concept. He's cool.
Yeah, it's weird. Like as people shit on the Clone Saga because for one thing they kind of overdid it,
and the plot makes no sense.
I think when it first started, it could have worked, but again, it's like interference from higher ups and stuff kind of fucking it up. It always is a lot of times. It did have some interesting characters, like Ben Riley, Scarlet Spider, and King Parker.
Yeah. Yeah, for those that need more in-depth information on the Clone Saga and its various odd inconsistencies, Linkara has a reoccurring series on the Clone Saga. So, yeah, for those that need the additional context, seek out Linkara
Yeah.
and it's up the
But
fourth wall.
it's just weird that it's that's what I mentioned about the disjointing stuff of the Spider-Man mythos that's kind of really, really hindering it.
Well, speaking of things from the Clone Saga, they easily could have repurposed here to make this a little bit more consistent and also kind of badass. If they wanted a one-off, semi-telepathic, semi-mystical Spider-Man villain, there's actually a villain from the general vicinity of the Clone Saga era they could have used. Judas Traveler. I know nobody but me and Linkara remember who Judas Traveler is, but Judas Traveler actually was a kind of interesting one-off villain that they never followed up on. He has psychic possible reality bending powers, and that would have fit in really well here. So they instead of taking an ally of Spider-Man's and turning him into an antagonist for Madam Web, they could have thrown Judas Traveler at her, and it would have at least had the credulity of making the tiniest bit more sense than what they did here, and wouldn't have pissed off quite as many comic book fans.
Yeah.
But obviously they didn't think that far ahead, which one would think you would do before you make a movie, but oh well.
Right. Yeah, it's weird to me. Like I don't feel, I'm not pissed off by it. I'm not excited for it. Obviously, it's weird. That's the best I can say about it.
It doesn't stand out in any meaningful way other than being a movie from 30 years ago that got released now for some reason.
Anyway, shall we?
Banana Spider. Fun fact, Dragon Turtle, bananas are automatically partially radioactive in a low level sort of way. Anyway, Banana Spider.
Why aren't you scared of me? Why do you care for me?
Your future was almost so different.
Where do we go?
If you want to live, you have to trust me.
Get ready.
Why was this not a made-for-TV movie? That's what it feels like. It feels like either a made-for-TV movie from 30 years ago or a direct-to-video movie from 30 years ago.
You know what the weirdest thing to me this is? Just for the whole Sonyverse Spider thing. There are literally, as we mentioned earlier, there are other Spider characters that have very interesting stories that you could have had be the central figure for those universes.
Yeah. Like Ben Riley, like Kane,
or Mayday Parker, the daughter of Peter Parker.
If they made a Mayday movie, if they made a Mayday movie and it was even barely competent, entire swathes of comic book fans would go to see it just as a fuck you to Marvel Comics for not perpetually not undoing One More Day to try to pressure them into doing it. But no, apparently not.
Imagine if the MCU did Spectacular Spider-Girl as the Spider Hero.
I don't think they would do it well at this point they would
Well,
they would social
obviously,
justicize her, and it would go well. It wouldn't
obviously,
go well at all.
obviously, I mean more so like replace Spider-Man for 2016.
I think it would have still pissed off fans who wanted to see Marvel's actual take on Spider-Man.
Oh, I don't know. I'd be okay with it if it was done well.
I think if they did it back during like Civil War, if they had if you swapped out Spider-Man for Spider-Girl in the Hey Everyone trailer, I think that would have just pissed off the fan base who would want to see the MCU's actual take on Peter. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I just like introducing Spider-Girl now and not making her an SJW character. That's one thing, but introducing a Spider-Girl instead of a Spider-Man, that wouldn't have gone over well. Anyway, Banana Spider.
Now!
You're showing off.
Maybe a little.
And yet, even your showing off is boring and produces no reaction in me. And I hate it. Like, again, this is the kind of movie that even 30 years ago would have come out theatrically for like a week, and then they would have realized they would have had a bomb, and it would have been banished to like the bargain bin at the local Blockbuster Video. And yes, I realize in making that reference, I am pointing out just how old I am. And no, you don't need to remind me that 30 is only 2 years away from me. Shut up. Preemptively. Just shut up in general. But next trailer. Or I should say, take 2 of the trailer reaction that we started last week but did not finish because, well, technical difficulties were technical and difficult.
You're old.
Yes, I am aware. Shut up.
But yeah. So let me present here. Okay. Okay. The live action Avatar: Last Airbender official teaser trailer for next.
Cabbages.
It was right, cabbages. Okay. Give me 1 sec.
Although, as we discovered last week, there are way too many iconic fruits in the Avatar franchise.
Time is a funny thing. The past, the future.
As I said last week, as much as I am cautiously optimistic for this show, opening the trailer with the past and the future sometimes get muddled monologue makes me nervous because I've been hit with the subversion stick a few too many times.
So, dumb. I want to say, I feel like for some reason the speech might be taken out of some context because to me it sounds somewhat more like, in terms of like the Avatar, and it possibly, I feel like it's tied directly to that in some form or fashion.
Right, and that may well be, and I might be jumping at ghosts here and everything, but I just it reminds me a little bit too much of The Past Must Die, Burn It Down if necessary, and it's just a matter of when one sees modern adaptations, when they start waxing lyrical about how things can be different because the past and the future get muddled, it is time to brace yourself. I'm so cautiously optimistic about this show, but emphasis on the cautiously optimistic.
I do want to say, I mean, it's not a high bar, mind you, but it is far better than what was it, 2009?
Yeah, no, the bar of the Shyamalan version is buried several fathoms deep in bedrock.
Right,
But yes, it still is better than the Shyamalan version. Granted, getting repeatedly kicked in the balls by someone with a steel
Right.
pair of knee pads is a higher bar than the M Night Shyamalan version.
So, hold on a second. Yeah, it looks really nice. CGI isn't too bad. I think it's a little higher grade than like TV budget. Those are kind of colorful too, you know, like which I really like in this fact.
I don't know. It still looks a bit TV movie-ish to me. It looks a little bit cheaper than I would prefer. Obviously, they're not going to throw the sun, the moon, all the stars at this adaptation, even though they should, and it would probably have better consequences than they're thinking. But the production value is a little lower than I would prefer. Granted, my gold standard for a live action Avatar: The Last Airbender adaptation would be get Peter Jackson to do it and give him 6 movies rather than 3. But
I'll be fully honest. I think you're wrong on this one. To be fair, but I can see your point. I just personally, I think I disagree. So I think it's just.
I just wish there was more attention to detail with like the environments and the costumes. Like I wish they had gone more just straight up Inuit with the Water Tribe, because the Water Tribe are supposed to be a variation on the Inuits and stuff. So like
I mean, the clothes look very like from the show. So I'm not. I don't know.
It's just the kind of thing that the smaller attention to detail that they would put in if this were a bigger blockbuster adaptation, like again something like a Peter Jackson adaptation.
I don't know. I still disagree with you. I get your point. I think it looks fine for what it is.
Yeah, but I'm getting sick of adding the "it looks fine for what it is" proviso is the thing. And when you make an adaptation of something this near and dear to my heart, I have higher standards. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, fair enough. I get. Right.
But cabbages. My cabbages.
it all gets mixed up. There's only one way to keep.
See, I think the Fire Nation scenes look better, and I think it might be because of the low lighting. So the like aesthetics and the CGI blend better, maybe.
Also, for the record, if they don't have my cabbages in this, that's where I'm gonna get angry.
Yeah, no. The Cabbage Merchant needs to make several appearances on schedule, and he needs to secretly have the slowly being comedically embittered arc that me and Dragon Turtle were discussing. And he needs to get back at Team Avatar by blabbing to the playwright, the Fire Nation playwright, and beget the play, and then use the money he gets from that playwright to create Cabbage Corp, like Dragon Turtle and I were discussing last time we talked.
I'm sorry. God, I hated that. I hated that so much. Honestly, I'm gonna be totally honest. There's like, I don't technically hate Legend of Korra because I think it's interesting and I love to see more of the Avatar universe. But
it's a clusterfuck.
The issue is, I'm sorry, a little tangent here, but it's so goddamn wasted potential.
Yep. Brainstormer and I once went through in detail watching season 1 and rewriting it, and we came up with this grand, like, mythological epic that involved an embittered cosmic lion turtle, and suffice it to say, it was badass, and made much better use of the world building. And
I will be honest, don't know where that I might have accidentally deleted that just because I didn't think we were ever going to go anywhere with that because we kind of stopped doing that years ago. Because I tried finding it some time ago and I could not find it.
It had better be fucking somewhere because that was one of my favorite things we ever did. Because, like, here's the problem, and the writers of Korra admitted to this. They wanted to see if they could make a Avatar show that did everything the opposite of the way that the original series did it. And unfortunately, when your apparent creative mandate is, let's do the opposite of this thing that was immeasurably iconic for an entire generation, unless you have something else to work with, unless you make that juxtaposition actually meaningful to the story, you wind up basically taking everything that was good about the original Avatar and doing the opposite. And do you know what you generally get when you do the opposite of something that was iconic and good and defined a generation? You get nonsensical, ham-handed, thrown-together bullshit with a possible social justice interpretation.
Right,
like Korra.
I remember most of the stuff we wrote down. Like, I just don't know where we put the No, I actually remember a great deal of the things that we wrote that we came up with just because it was it was all really good stuff, and honestly we talked at like, I can't remember how many months we talked about that. It did take us months to come up with that.
Okay, but again, the people in question that made Iron Man, and somewhere Marania is feeling her ears burn because she is the quintessential Iron Man fangirl. But the people who made Iron Man decided to then take that concept and build something with it. The problem with Legend of Korra is it very much, or at least season 1 of Legend of Korra. I can't speak to the other seasons because, frankly, my patience for watching Legend of Korra alone is nil, and we decided to stop. Rewriting it. So, although to be fair, by the time of the end of our season 1 concept, it had so completely diverged from the rest of the show that I don't think we could have salvaged much from seasons 2 through 4. But that's neither here nor there. The problem with Korra is that, one, subversion or inversion of everything that made Avatar, the original series, good seems to have been the only thought process. And as I have pointed out several times, the equalness subplot drops out of the freaking sky, and it is very obviously because Legend of Korra is one of the early patient zeros for social justice style writing, and I hate it. No one ever considered in-universe world building or in-universe character progression. And again, I hate to point this out, but that was something that the original Avatar did masterfully. In-universe logic, in-universe character progression, in-universe reasons coming from the in-universe conflicts. Whereas Korra, entire plot threads and character moments drop out of the freaking sky because the pacing is null, and the world building pacing is also null because.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm back. Wait, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like a major thing we talked about. Just as we can, like, I think even within the first episode, we talked about how to. You know what? No, actually, we'll talk more about this as we get through the trailer with like our rewrite of Korra. Just that was a whole thing in itself.
Yeah,
want to talk about that because I'm so proud.
It was one of the most fun things I think we ever did, and
Dude,
and
my
it,
God, I love
it's one of my favorite writing things we've ever done, which is saying something when you consider that we've built entire universes before, and it's awesome. But yeah.
We'll talk about it. Give us a second to.
Keep it straight. Always remember who you are.
Again, it's bizarre to me that the fire effects are the ones that look the best, which is just sort of ironic in the extreme.
Yeah. Not really having to say mostly because we're just mostly getting like land shots and stuff, which I mean again don't look bad and honestly have an interesting look about them. And I'm seeing some cinematic looks of things. But I mean again, I agree with you that it kind of wish there was a bigger budget so everything, but you know, they got at least a good enough stuff. Like I like the Kyoshi Warriors don't look bad. I like that. Like they're not really shying away from the look thing.
Yeah, someone clearly cared. It's just I don't know if that person was always in charge, and that's a bit. Again, this is why I phrased myself as cautiously optimistic, but I must put the emphasis on the caution because I have been burned metaphorically, and yes, I just realized the irony of saying that when talking about Avatar. I have been burned by wanting to like things before and then having them shit all over my dreams. So, cautiously optimistic.
So there was something I forgot to bring up earlier, which was Zuko's scar and how it just looked painted on.
Mm-hmm.
and it's live action, so I just kind of expected the. I mean, it looks fairly close to how it looks in the cartoon, but
If you get that is one makeup effect you cannot afford to skimp on. It's Zuko's scar and Aang's arrow. Those are two things which you must do with practical makeup effects to make them look convincing, and you cannot skimp on. And considering how central they are to the thing, and how often the audience will be seeing them, you really can't afford to cheap out on either of them. That's almost the duality of the Avatar versus the Fire Prince, is Zuko has his scar, Aang has his tattoos.
right. And as much as we give shit to the M. Night Shyamalan's Avatar: Last Airbender, or Last Airbender, I think it was called. I actually like the tattoo for the arrow in that.
Yeah, no, it had a weird sort of like Asian, almost like Buddhist, like Tibetan Buddhist design to it. That was neat. It doesn't make up for any of the other stupid things that movie did, but
I agree on that. I kind of wish, again, as much as it is, as much as everyone rightly so does not like that movie, I kind of feel like that at the very least could have been taken into account.
Yeah. Though I will give this version credit. Zuko in the M. Night Shyamalan version didn't even look like he had a scar half the time, so you're doing better than M. Night Shyamalan. But again, that bar is buried so far down, it might as well be buried in bedrock at this point.
Okay, Giant Troll, I'm talking about how they did it, but I can see the equalist thing working. The 20th century was full of revolutionary ideas, including communism, and benders are basically born with special powers.
Right, but once again, here is the problem. Both the plot pacing and also, more importantly, I think, in my opinion, the world building pacing was nonsensical in Korra. If this was 200 or 300 years after Aang's era, that would almost make sense, because you can allude to things that happened off screen that changed the dynamics between benders and non-benders. Or you can allude to the emergence of ideologies that are basically pseudo-communism for that universe. But because Aang apparently died in his 30s instead of becoming wise old monk, which again, it's an artifact of why you can't just do the opposite of what the previous thing did and have it not work, or have it work. But because Aang basically died in his 30s or thereabouts, and Korra was born immediately after, and rather than skipping an iteration of the Avatar, again, having her be an earthbender instead of a waterbender, they jumped right to the next Avatar instead. So all of this pseudo 21st century quasi steampunk bullshit feels as though 100 years happened off screen that we don't get to allude to now. And the equalist subplot is the same way. You can have Avatar's version of communism take hold over the course of a couple centuries, and that would make both the technology and the ideological switch make sense. But the closest thing to an equalist plot that we got in the first show was Sokka occasionally felt out of sorts because he felt like he wasn't contributing enough to fight scenes. And you know what he did as a result of that? Did he grow to resent bending? Fucking no! Dude went and got himself a skill set so that he could better contribute to the fight scenes. And that is how this plot resolved in the original show. You can have tensions between benders and non-benders build over the course of a couple hundred years, but dropping them in because we really want to do a social justice, an equality plot line, doesn't work at fucking all when that's not how the world has been set up until this point, and you didn't give enough time off screen or on screen to have it build up.
Central, honestly, I could see pseudo-communism coming this fast. If society changes this fast, the big thing is the old 100 years war tension going away in a generation.
But again, making society change that fast at all is nonsensical to begin with. They jumped from like feudal Japan style technology to like 21st century or 20th century America.
Well, no,
in
they had
20 years.
stuff. They had industrial stuff. I mean, it was sparse, but they had it.
Yeah, but it was stuff that you could find in like a feudal Japan. They had like metalworking. They had metal ships. They had blacksmith. Like it was a mixture of like blacksmithing turned into the beginnings of like smelting factories, which is something they would have had in feudal Japan because they had ships with metal exteriors. Which again, they went from the tail end of like feudal Japan to 1920s New York in the space of like 20 years. And it doesn't make any sense. 200 years I could give you, especially with, lightning bending becoming the surrogate for electricity and what the mechanists were doing in the original show slowly leading to an industrial revolution type thing. Like, but you have to have that 200 years gap, which would mean that nobody from the original series could possibly still be alive. But they wanted to have the occasional cameo by old Fire Lord Zuko or Grandmother Toph or what have you. And that was the mistake. They either should have allowed the world building to progress apace with the timeline they wanted, or they should have cut the fan service in the name of keeping a consistent universe. Or, better yet, have the, older Team Avatar show up in the spirit world because that's a mechanic we set up already and it can work like that. That's what they did with original Iroh.
Okay, that's how clearing the ship the mechanist did. I can believe the tech jump, but it should have been mentioned about changing society like Luddites and the people upset at the erosion of tradition, sort of like season 2 of Legend of Korra, but was before it went to evil Avatar ship.
Again, Korra's biggest problem is we want to do the opposite of everything that was good about the original show, but not actually do any of the work that would be necessary to do that.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, it's the weirdest thing is, like, again, major issue was the pacing. Again, I'm mostly speaking from the first season. It felt like in the first episode, it had 3 episodes with it, right? We talked about that.
Yeah. There were 3 episodes worth of plot crammed into the first episode, and none of them got enough time or enough weight to actually make something of.
Yeah.
But anyway, cabbages. My cabbages.
Again, if we don't get the cabbage merchant, we fucking riot.
Yeah, no, there will be hell to pay. Everything will change when the fandom nation attacks. I swear to God.
And early in the trailer, we were shown Ba Sing Se, so motherfucking cabbage merchant. Okay,
You give us the cabbage merchant, or again, everything will be changed when the fandom nation attacks.
or who's the guy from Big Trouble in Little China? You know, the villain.
Lopan.
Yeah, the actor who played him. I honestly could see him doing it.
God damn it, what is his name? He was also the voice of Dao Long Long in Jackie Chan Adventures, and now I feel really. He also was in this show. He was the town chieftain of that one village where Sokka played detective.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm looking it up real quick.
And then we will both hit ourselves for forgetting his name.
Wow, Big Trouble in Little China is only an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh yeah, no, it's a really short movie. It doesn't feel short because there's a lot of stuff in it, but like, no, it's a very short movie.
It's just weird to find that out. I've watched that and I've never felt like it went by fast or anything.
No, it feels like a 2-hour movie, which shows just how much world building they were able to cram into 140 minutes, or yeah, an hour and 40 minutes. Which doesn't mean that a longer version might not have been even more badass, mind you, but I still generally speaking favor longer movies, but if you can do a good movie in that time, then do it.
The guy who plays David Lopan is James Hong.
There we go. That is his name. Also the voice of Dao Long Long in Jackie Chan Adventures. Which that show, speaking of things that need a live action adaptation, Jackie Chan Adventures. That show had no earthly right to be as awesome as it was, and it was awesome.
94 years old.
And may he.
He also Mr.
Go ahead.
He's Poe's dad.
Yeah, in Kung Fu Panda. Yep. He has not lacked for work over the years. Dude gets a lot of work, as well he should.
Anyway, shall we?
Sorry, I did promise I was going to hit myself, so nah. But yes, cabbages, my cabbages. See, I'm 90% sure they use the same sounds for Momo, and I love it. Momo also looks awesome, by the way. And this was the moment where any misgivings I had momentarily melted, because I don't think it's possible for me to actually hear that music and not automatically feel the feelings.
Yeah, I do like how it's not a remix or anything, but like just kind of an orchestral expansion of the actual theme.
Yeah, they just were like, how can we take this thing that defines a generation and make it even more badass?
It works. It really does.
Which means that we need to also get a version of winter, spring, summer, and fall, and of course, the girls from Ba Sing Se, and doubly, of course, Soldier Boy.
Oh fuck!
If I don't cry when they do Iroh singing Soldier Boy in this, you're doing something wrong.
God damn it! Now I'm starting to tear up remembering it. Fuck you, Dalton.
I'm sorry, but when I say this show defined an entire generation, I am not lying. I was 12 when it first came out. I know, I was there.
I was younger than that. Oh god, no. Fuck. I'm sorry. It's just every time I hear Little Soul's voice, the song plays in my head.
Yep,
Fuck,
and
man.
the tears start rolling. Yep, I know. But yes, if they don't include the majority of the song cues in this show, then someone is going to be paying it. Someone is going to be
Well, okay,
fucking
that
cheap blocked like Ty Lee.
that fully depends whether or not this gets more seasons. So, and Netflix likes to cancel stuff, so we'll keep that
This
in
is also true, but winter, spring, summer, and fall first was sung in the Storm episode, which was a season 1 episode. So I want it.
I'm actually curious what stuff they're gonna. I mean, obviously they're not gonna do like what's the one episode every I forget the name of it.
Great Divide.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
doubt
the one that almost no one likes, even though it was still smartly written, because
Yeah.
well, Avatar.
Yeah.
Like
Um,
when that and the play episode are your two worst episodes, god damn, you must be batting 1,000.
No,
Which
three
I mean
seasons.
they are. So,
Yeah,
so.
it's three out of 3 seasons. Only 2 episodes are considered bad.
And by the way, if you want this one to be different, give me a book for Air when time comes for that, because it it does kind of bother me that we never got to see like the like aftermath of everything, and you could have easily done that in a book for Air, especially what with Katara and Aang getting together and having lots of little airbenders to train.
I mean, if we're going by Korra,
Ignore everything Korra did except for Tenzin. Tenzin you can keep, but ignore everything else about Korra's timeline, please.
I like Boomy, and like
Well, yeah, like keep small details like that. Just don't keep Aang was an asshole father who died in his 30s, because
I don't know if it was his 30s.
well, he died far younger than a air nomad probably should have, because they wanted to be different, and Roku lived to a ripe old age, therefore Aang dies young. But yeah, let Aang have a long, happy life, and let him be the wise old wizard when he gets to that age at some point.
Anyway, shall we?
Cabbages, my cabbages. What's the date on that? It looked like September 2024, but I can't tell. Oh, February. Okay. So we have 2 months. Or no, 3 months.
I mean, we're close to the end anyway of November, so
Yeah, so like between 2 and 3 months is what we have.
roughly. Well, okay. If we were broadcasting on November 22nd, then yeah, that would be 2 months. No, 3 months.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, roughly 3 months.
2 months, or yeah, 3 months doesn't seem like long enough for them to finish. Like, I'm actually okay with waiting until like April or May of 2024 just so that they can finish up everything and do it right. Because here's the thing, I've already lived through the world where Avatar gets a shitty adaptation. I don't need to live there anymore. if you're going to return to the Avatar well, you had best come correct, or somebody is getting bloodbended. I will figure out how to make it work IRL just to punish you if I have to. By the way, the bloodbending episode, the Puppet Master, is still probably the creepiest episode. I think it's one of the few pieces of media from when I was younger that actually gave me nightmares. Just the idea of like losing control in that way, and also the fact that they obviously kind of based it on voodoo or kind of sympathetic magic in the same way that waterbending is based on Tai Chi.
Yeah, imagine that being live action.
I mean, they kind of have to do it. They kind of have to do Hama and like.
Just imagine how terrifying it's going to be.
No,
Because
and
animation-wise, it was fucking horrific.
yeah, and it should be horrifying because she is basically the Avatar universe's equivalent of a witch. And again, bloodbending is all about someone else controlling, quote, every muscle, every vein, every movement. So.
Although I'm just curious, because if it were me, that I would try to do it as practically as possible, like get contortionists that could.
Yeah, or at least have the actors study with contortionists to get the jerky movements down.
Yeah, or like those dancers that have like real control of their body and stuff.
Yeah, like they need to do that kind of research anyway because bending is supposed to be heavily based on martial arts. Like water bending is Tai Chi, top surf bending is Mantis Kung Fu. Fire bending is like Judo.
It's going to be very hard to get right, I think, for live action.
I really hope they don't social justicize her. Do not make Toph Beifong a victim, or entire boulders are going to go through your houses. I swear to God.
I'm worried that some idiot is going to think they have this character as like a quote unquote girl boss or whatever.
They're gonna make her. I have a worry that they're gonna make her, one, a victim, two, a commentary on ableism, and fucking no. What makes Toph good is that she wasn't the worst disabled stereotypes.
Okay, we're not putting that into the universe. We're not putting that into the universe.
Yeah, don't do it or I'll come after you. I swear to God, writers.
My issue was an actor portraying like the confidence of the character. That's my issue. Like, get kind of a character who Toph's like the youngest of the group, right?
Yeah, and she's also the shortest, but she's also the most unit-ish. Like, you almost need to get like a female power lifter or something in there, like a female teenage power lifter to do Toph.
Yeah, anyway, this one kind of came out of nowhere, and I'll be honest, I pretty much did everything this week.
Mm-hmm.
But this one came out of nowhere, and Dawn was completely surprised by it when I brought it up.
Yeah, no, we both were really surprised because you would think for a Ghostbusters 4 they would do more build up, but no, it basically just dropped out of the frickin' sky.
It was like I honestly came across this just random when I was just checking my YouTube. I was gonna recommend it. So.
And there was like no fanfare or articles being written or build up to it at all. It was so freaking weird.
Yeah. But it's only 2 minutes and 5 seconds, so.
Ecto-Cooler. That is the food that is synonymous with Ghostbusters. So Ecto-Cooler.
I've never heard of that.
These out of touch Zoomers, I tell you what.
Okay, fuck you. Tell me where it's from. Because I've seen both movies and I've played the third game. I played the game that's supposed to technically be the third movie.
In the 80s, High C released a green variation on High C that was called Ectocooler.
Okay, I'm
For
not
an
gonna
en- for
really-
for an en- for an entire generation, it was so iconic that it had basically a sub fandom to the point that they re-released it in 2016 with the old universe version that shall not be named, and everyone lost their freaking minds. So
I didn't hear
Ectocooler it is.
Okay, I did not hear shit about it. Okay, first of all, even when 2016 happened.
I shall do my best to toss you down the Ectocooler rabbit hole after this show.
I'm good.
But Ectocooler.
Honestly, I'll be fully honest. I kind of want to see it just a live action adaptation or something to do with the Extreme Ghostbusters because I watched reruns of that as a kid.
From what I heard, just like Afterlife, what ended up having Gozer make a comeback. From what I heard, the initial like early iteration of this was going to have Vigo make a comeback, which I really like the idea of Vigo making a comeback. Because he's basically off-brand Vlad the Impaler, who's also a sorcerer, which is just cool. But Ectocooler.
I'm telling you, it's going to be another hot one out there. In fact, there are heat alerts in effect for New Jersey, feeling like 100 degrees.
I don't really have anything to comment on at this point, other than I hope they don't make it an environmental message, please. But Ectocooler.
What is that?
Yeah, I still don't really have anything to comment on. On the one hand,
Yeah.
I'm grateful for them for like keeping the plot under wraps in the first trailer. On the other hand, I would sort of like to know what in the actual fuck is going on. And I would like to know if they're going with the original concept that I had heard about of Vigo coming back or not.
Kind of a lot of build up, like first 40 seconds of the trailer, which I kind of respect, but also
yeah, no, it's good for them for like not coming right out with it, but still,
it's not a lot to say really. So
it's a bit inefficient considering that. How long is the trailer?
2 minutes and 5 seconds.
Yeah, and the first 40 seconds of it aren't really relevant to anything.
Yeah.
Ectocooler.
And New York becomes a frozen wasteland.
Please, no environmental rigmarole.
You are jinxing it, Dalton. You are jinxing it.
It's my only possible reservation at this point. Just please, no environmental rigmarole. Ecto Cooler.
Yeah, give me a sec.
For the first time in New York history, people froze to death in the middle of July.
What is it?
The death chill. The power to kill.
I have faith in not Ivan Reitman, Jason Reitman, to give us Ghostbusters 4, because I live in a world where the 2016 version does not exist, and Ghostbusters Afterlife basically functions as Ghostbusters 3. So Ghostbusters 4, this is.
Okay, so the death kill, the power to kill by fear itself. I mean, there's always been the talk of like, the like chill up your spine or feel it like.
Yeah, ghost, and of course, they did that also with Danny Phantom with the ghost sense and the eventual ice powers.
Yeah.
Which I've been seeing a lot of Danny Phantom clips been recommended to me on Facebook in short form lately, and it just makes me want to revisit the series. Which speaking of crossovers that need to happen like yesterday, Ghostbusters and Danny Phantom.
I didn't want to say anything, but you beat me to it when I was gonna mention anything. But what I was gonna say was it was actually like a sequel comic that came out for Danny Phantom.
I did not know what happened.
I haven't checked it. I've seen a few like video reviews of it.
I hope Butch Hartman didn't try to make a religious thing on it, because he apparently.
It wasn't Butch Hartman.
But he created the show and the character. Why? Okay, I'm confused now.
I don't know. Look it up for yourself, man.
I know he did have a.
I think he'll have no rights to it anymore.
Okay, that's possible too. I know he did have a kind of almost Ben 10 Alien Force style, the gang 5 years later sort of concept, because he's drawn like older versions of Danny and Sam and Tucker, before. So like.
I watched that series as it was coming out. I liked it.
I did discover while I was looking for things on Amazon that you can get the entire series on DVD for $17.
Anyway, shall we?
Yeah, Ecto Cooler.
By fear itself. Your veins turn to rivers of ice. Your bones crack. And the last thing you see is your own tear ducts freezing up.
Like, literally scared to death? So cool.
Wait, you mean to tell me that Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd are actually playing a substantive role here? Automatic win. I actually love Dan Aykroyd. Did you know that his family has a history of a like history of researching the paranormal and the occult, and that was part of what influenced the creation of Ghostbusters?
I did not.
His father actually wrote books on on the like subject of the paranormal.
God damn it! Why does everyone have a cooler life than me? Fuck.
Because you can't see the superhero backstory elements of your own life because you're too close to it. But also because because Dan Aykroyd comes from an older generation of actors where actors had more interesting things on their minds than bargain basement social justice nonsense.
Hey, Dom, what the fuck am I gonna do with that? With my quote superhero backstory? Huh? What am I gonna do with that? Again, I am.
It regularly influences your character writing and your storytelling, so it's good for something.
Anyway, this seems.
And I mean,
fun.
not to my own horn here, but I think Dan Aykroyd and me are kind of cut of a similar cloth here. But yeah,
You are older, so you teed me off.
yes, I know.
But
Also obligatory shut up.
But yeah. So this is definitely a teaser trailer, more or less. I mean, it's giving you bits and pieces, but it is somewhat keeping you in the dark with the whole thing, which I'm fine with, because that's how teaser trailer is supposed to be, instead of just being like a full-on fucking trailer, which is I've had an issue with that before.
Yeah, some phenomena is creating it's like amplifying the stereotypical ghostly chill of ghosts, and it's causing people to freeze to death based on fear, which is actually somewhat similar to how the aggressiveness in New York beget the slime in Ghostbusters 2. So this might actually tie into Vigo returning, especially because Vigo is from the Carpathian Mountains, which are fuck off cold. So it's not entirely implausible that Vigo could make a comeback from this concept.
Yeah, I got really nothing else to say. I'm intrigued, to say the least.
And I'm just glad that it looks like from the trailer, unless they're deceptively editing the movie, which is possible, that it's more than just a cameo for the older set this time, and that like Ray and Venkman are like,
and also what's Ernie Hudson's character's name?
Winston.
Yeah.
Winston Zedmore. But it looks like the surviving Ghostbusters are actually helping the next generation of Ghostbusters kind of get on their feet, which I love.
Similar to Extreme Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and like it seems to be building on both the original series and Ghostbusters 3, which is Afterlife. So, which is good. Which is a good basis for the movie anyway, and it gives us more original Ghostbusters. So, yay. But Ecto Cooler. I wonder if they'll bring in anything from the Ghostbusters cartoon, because the Ghostbusters cartoon was actually surprisingly badass for being made back in the day. all the more reason to do the eventual Danny Phantom Ghostbusters crossover. I want it. I forget what the last thing we were going to cover this week is. I don't know if Brainstormer forgot to unmute or if he's just setting up the trailer.
I was setting it up.
Hmm.
There is one thing that sort of bugs me about this.
Hmm.
Well, okay. Ghostbusters was produced by Sony, right?
Yes.
Why the fuck do we have? Why does that look good and Madam Web looks like shit?
Because the person in charge of the new crop of Ghostbusters movies is Jason Reitman, who is the son of Ivan Reitman, and he actually cares about and seems to know how Ghostbusters works, which is much like with the original Sam Raimi trilogy, and then of course with the MCU crossovers. It very much seems like Sony needs someone to hold their hand, otherwise they don't know how movies work.
Yes,
So by all means, Jason Reitman, hold their hand as hard as you have to, because Sony can't be left to its own devices. Because when they're left to their own devices, they put people like Paul Feig in charge, and then we get the Ghostbusters alt universe thing that shall not be named.
right. So this is the teaser trailer for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It's the sequel to the fantastic Planet of the Apes trilogy of the 2010.
Yeah, the one that Matt Reeves really got his start on before he
Yeah,
became the Batman guy.
I do have to finish. He didn't do the first one. He did the second and third one.
Who did the first one? I can't remember.
Hold on.
Because I actually do remember really liking the first one.
Give me a second. That movie's over 10 years old. That's the Planet of the Apes, by the way. Rupert Wyatt.
Did he go on to do anything significant after that?
I'm looking right now.
Because it'd be a shame if he didn't. But I don't. His name isn't familiar, and I don't remember seeing him anywhere else, which is sad.
Okay, but hold on. There's a Planet State, Patrick State, Rainbow. Unfortunately not.
Shame. He did a good enough. He did a good enough job on the first one that you'd think he would have gone somewhere, but evidently not. Okay, but this one we don't even have to change because monkey like banana is a meme. So banana.
Let's check to who is the director for. Hold on. Okay. West Ball. Looking him up right now. Oh. Huh. Okay.
Dragon Turtle, a potential Danny Phantom Ghostbusters crossover would make more sense if you include stuff from the Ghostbusters animated series, which was called The Real Ghostbusters, because that massively expanded the scope of the lore and the mechanics of ghosts in that universe, which you could very easily tie the Ghost Zone to. In that way.
So, yeah, this is interesting. I don't know how this might affect your enjoyment of this. The West Ball did the Maze Runner movie trilogy.
Meh.
I like those movies, to be honest. They're better of the YA.
I think the Divergent one was pretty good. I never liked Maze Runner all that much.
You don't like anything.
I like plenty of things, shush you.
Anyway.
Banana.
Yeah, banana.
Because monkey like banana is a well-established meme.
When I sleep, I see strange things.
Memories?
Not memories.
I assume this is an ape talking in a future
okay,
after
so-
the planet has been established.
Yeah, so I'm under the impression, because obviously the trilogy from the 2010.
With an origin story trilogy.
Yeah. This seems like it's bridging the gap between like the original Planet of the Apes and that trilogy, obviously.
Yeah, which there's certainly a lot of good fodder for that if they choose to do that.
It still looks great too. Like the thing I've always been so impressed by, I mean, besides the story, the characters, and a lot of other things on a Planet of the Apes movie in recent obviously, is the CGI, dude. Like,
Yeah.
my God.
The Planet of the Apes has always been a really good benchmark for effects. Obviously back in the day, in the oldest version of Planet of the Apes, it was all practical. But even the Tim Burton version, that for some reason people didn't like all that much.
It was fine. I think
it would have been. I think it would have been better remembered if it had got a sequel, because I feel like it was building to something.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I'm interested because it really has a sense of intrigue about this, even within the first 20 seconds. Of just like, because Caesar's era is gone, unfortunately. As sad as that is, his time has passed.
Yeah, so now we get to see the transition between what we know of the various different versions of Planet of the Apes and the origin story trilogy that we got previously.
Yeah. Let me.
Yeah, but in any case, we should banana. I feel like bananas would be currency in the Planet of the Apes universe, but speaking of banana.
New things. I see
everything.
That is not everything.
Okay, it seems like there's at least parts of this that are practical and parts of it that are CG, which I like. Because people have forgotten how to mix them properly.
I mean, the apes are definitely CG.
It almost, the face is almost realistic enough where I could see it being a mask, though. Was why I said.
You didn't say that. I didn't hear. I didn't hear you just say that. I might cut out or something. I don't know. But I get your point, and I don't disagree. I feel like a lot of the sets and stuff are.
Mhm.
But yeah, dude, this is. I know I often bring this up, but goddamn, the coloring. Like, it's saturated, but not oversaturated. You know, it's not like a Michael Bay thing.
Yeah, it's they know how to shoot natural scenes and not make them look awful. So good for them.
Yeah.
But banana.
Thought I had something else, but I don't think so right now. Well, actually,
Okay.
no, actually, I kind of do. I mean, obviously, it's Kingdom, so Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This very much feels somewhat fantasy, kind of, right?
Yeah, which if this is their equivalent to the medieval period, then that makes sense. I
But
do
honestly,
wonder if we're going to be seeing humans much in this, or if like are they going to be a slave class or not?
if I remember correctly, in the last one, because again, they were starting to become more primitive, which I think was in line with the original,
Hmm.
because of the virus mutating.
Yeah.
So that's fairly interesting. So this again, clearly, this is a few generations after Caesar.
Yeah. Long enough
How,
for that era to probably be the stuff of like legend.
yeah. Although that does sadden me because we won't get to see Maurice anymore or Rocket.
I mean, yeah, but in order for the Planet of the Apes that we know to be a thing, then there has to be the transition between
I
the
know.
origin story trilogy
They
to,
were cool. They were cool characters. Is all I'm saying.
and I'm sure these new characters will also be cool if this movie is written well.
Right. Okay,
Yeah, banana. I don't really have anything to add here. Do you?
Again, like well, one thing, it looks fucking awesome. Just gonna say that. And two, I think you're right about the medieval thing. And
Mm-hmm.
again, this like I think yeah, like how it's shot right now, like you know, with this scene. I'm getting very much like a fantasy kind of vibe to it, like
Yeah,
story,
like
telling wise.
they're reinventing and reprogressing through human eras, which we know they do. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's weird because you know as they got smarter and stuff, you really could tell that they were kind of falling in the same line of like human history and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Which,
human.
which I will give this movie a gold star if we see apes using magic. Give me ape wizards. I want ape wizards.
You already got to check the chin, so that's DC though. I admit that.
But what I mean is in the canon of the Planet of the Apes universe. Give me ape magic users.
Although it does look like technology here kind of might be viewed as that somewhat, like with CalProd here.
That would be wrong.
I get it. Understand that.
I don't want Arthur C. Clarke nonsense. I want actual like ape shamans and ape wizards and shit. It's a medieval setting. There should be wizards somewhere. Especially if you're going the more fantasy vibe.
Honestly, I get Shannara Chronicle vibes from this kind of.
Yeah. Which I mean is fair considering that like Shannara Chronicles kind of Adventure Times it, or I guess I should say, Adventure Time follows kind of a Shannara Chronicles formula when all is said and done. But
yeah.
But banana. Is that supposed to be like an ape round table? That's awesome.
No, it's a village built by the seaside.
Ah. It looked almost like a round table there for a second.
This is again, you're really getting like the fantasy epic vibe, which I really like. Is again like with like the original Planet of the Apes movie that came out in the 60s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was 60s. That intrigues me because clearly there has been a history of the apes in their place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And seeing this kind of prequel series of movies, you really get to fill in those gaps because I don't think they ever really fully went into that, like
not into like the transition period, no,
which I find it because I think you and I agree with like terms of world building is all those eras of what were they called again? Eras of transition and history and stuff are super interesting settings that could be explored more if I like this because we are seeing the buildup of the world, even though we know the end of it. We know how it kind of ends, sort of.
Yeah, we know something about A and we know something about B, but how do we get from A to B? This so far has been a really good demonstration of how you do a prequel series correctly. Because so many people don't know how to do prequels without it going wrong.
What the issue I think is more or less often they either over explain things or explain the wrong things.
Yeah, they focus on the wrong thing and try to assault the audience's intelligence with member berries rather than actually building a world. But
yeah, this feels like honestly, this feels like its own separate thing, even to like the other prequel
Yeah,
series.
yeah. Which again, if this is ape society going through its medieval phase, I want ape wizards.
And I feel like you're gonna knock its points if they don't have ape wizards.
I mean, no, but I will give it a gold star if they do have ape wizards.
God, yeah, I'm. It's just we've seen. I think, granted, this has mostly been Marvel for the most part,
Hmm.
but so many modern movies recently have kind of disappointed me in like the visual effects and stuff. This is incredible.
Yeah, see what you can do when you let your visual effects artists take their freaking time.
Well, that and also there's passion behind it. Like I think we both agree we feel the passion.
Yeah, it feels like somebody really wanted to do. Okay, what if we did like a stereotypical medieval fantasy, but Planet of the Apes though, which is just cool as an
Yeah.
idea. It also actually allows the movies to almost genre bend because normally Planet of the Apes is very sci-fi heavy.
Uh-huh.
Um, whereas whereas this seems to be leaning more towards the fantasy, which
Yeah.
again would make the ape wizard thing really cool if you did it. But
I mean the original the prequel series prequel trilogy of the 2010s um
mhm.
had sci-fi elements, but in a way you kind of make an
it
out of
was
the
a,
war.
it was a very realistic sci-fi, whereas the original like 60s version was very um over the top sci-fi.
I was gonna say that it's also kind of a war movie style in some of them.
Yeah, because also obviously there were apocalyptic elements because well
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It was kind of. I mean, okay, so the first one, I'm not entirely sure what you would qualify that as, like sort of genre.
like realistic sci-fi probably.
Yeah. Then the second one, that's post-apocalyptic. Yeah. And then the
Mhm.
third one, I mean, it was advertised as a war movie, and you get that kind of towards the end of it, but it is, well, it's focused on Caesar, which is more of a revenge kind of movie.
Yeah.
So again, like you said, this, like I mentioned earlier and stuff, this feels very much like a medieval fantasy. Um, I sort of want to say I kind of get Kingdom of Heaven vibes from this.
The connection I made just now is Secret of Nim.
I don't think how long is it? I think I've seen that, but I haven't seen it in like so long.
It's a similar concept as Planet of the Apes, but it with rats instead of apes, and
Ooh, I read
and
the
they
book.
act and they actually, as their intelligence grows, do discover something approximating magic.
I actually, yeah, I read the book of that when I was in school,
I didn't realize it was based on a book. Damn.
and it could have been because I'm aware of the movie. I haven't seen the movie, only bits and pieces of it, but
I think you'd like it. It's a very dark fantasy movie
is it like
with like sci-fi elements.
it's not like Waterhouse Down, is it? I don't. I really don't.
You mean Watership Down?
Yeah.
No. The darkness of it is focused around the like mad scientists who create the rats in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, I read the book, and when I was in middle school. Yeah, I was middle school. I remember being in middle school.
I didn't realize it was based on a book.
I don't know if the book came before the movie or after the movie. That I'm not.
I imagine before, because it's not implausible that there was source material. I just didn't know there was.
Yeah. Anyway, like 20 seconds left, Alan.
Yep, banana.
What a wonderful day!
I'll be honest. This is how I think Avatar should have been.
I assume you mean James Cameron and not Airbender.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it could have, but it wasn't. So, nerds.
Oh my god.
What?
The Planet of the Apes prequel. Caesar's trilogy. I'm gonna call it that just because I'm sick.
Yeah, it's a little bit smoother than and less wordy than calling it the prequel trilogy every time.
Yeah. Caesar's trilogy definitely I think is what Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar movie.
Yeah, it's what James Cameron wishes Avatar was, but it ain't.
Or what he thinks it is.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm excited. It says it comes out Memorial Day, so next year.
Which this does seem like it'll do extremely well on Memorial Day, especially if there's not much competition. I don't know what the competition for Memorial Day next year looks like.
It looks like weirdly enough, it looks like there are a lot of good movies coming out next year.
Well, it's because a lot of movies that would have come out this year got pushed back a year
because of the
strikes and COVID and production delays and everything else.
Yeah. That is what we're gonna end on, because that was kind of our happy note, and I think definitely counts.
Yeah, no, it definitely counts. I look forward to probably enjoying this.
Yeah.
And you will get so many more points if the apes' evolving intelligence allows them to discover magic in the medieval setting. I want ape wizards, goddammit.
Or some form of magic, at the very least. Possibly alchemy. Would that suffice?
Yeah, do not Arthur C. Clarke me. If you Arthur C. Clarke me, my happiness turns to rage.
Okay. So with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, avidase, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
don't Arthur C. Clarke me, and fuck off.